Welcome to my channel. The year was 1994. The world was shifting, new technologies, pop culture icons rising, and economic tides changing in unexpected ways. Amidst all of this, in the quiet, unassuming halls of the United States Mint in Philadelphia, something ordinary was being made, yet in time, it would catch the eye of collectors and historians alike: a 5-cent coin, minted like millions of others, carrying the P mark just above Monticello. But this wasn't just any nickel. This was the 1994 Jefferson nickel. And while it may have appeared to be just another small piece of change tossed into pockets, vending machines, or sofa cushions, it holds a much richer story, a story that many collectors would come to treasure. Let's step back and understand why the nickel has been a part of American life for over 150 years. But since 1938, the Jefferson nickel has been the standard. It replaced the Buffalo nickel, which was beloved for its bold imagery of a Native American and a majestic bison. In its place came a more modern portrayal: President Thomas Jefferson, the third president of the United States, whose vision helped shape the nation's earliest days. In 1994, the Jefferson nickel design remained largely unchanged since its inception in 1938. On the obverse, or front, of the coin, Jefferson's left-facing profile remained ever dignified, composed, almost philosophical in its demeanor. The details of his hair, his coat, and the subtle lines of his face had seen decades of use in commerce and collecting. It was designed by Felix Schlag, an artist who, interestingly, had never seen Monticello in person when he first created the coin's reverse design. But back to 1994. Yet, this is where the story begins to twist. As with many coins, it's not always the number minted that defines value, it's the condition, the rarity of flawless specimens, and the quirks of the minting process that turn something common into something prized. That's the case with a few exceptional 1994 P nickels. Most 1994 P nickels you'll come across today are worn, scratched, maybe even tarnished. They've done their job. But the few that have survived in mint state, truly pristine, with full steps visible on Monticello, are another story entirely. Let's pause on those steps for a moment, combine that with a high mint state grade MS65, MS66, or even MS67, and you have a coin that defies its humble origins. Grading is another world altogether. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, with 70 being a perfect coin. Most coins pulled from circulation rarely make it above MS60, and even coins straight from mint rolls might only score MS63 or MS64. Hitting MS67 is rare. Very rare. So, imagine now one small, gleaming nickel from 1994. Minted in a sea of over 825 million. But this one is perfect. It shines. The detail on Jefferson's face is untouched. The rim is full. The luster dances under the light. And on the back? 6 full, sharp, uninterrupted steps on Monticello. That's not just a nickel anymore. That's a prize, and collectors know it. Over the years, more and more attention has been paid to modern coins in exceptional condition. While older coins, like Morgan dollars, wheat pennies, or Liberty head nickels, have long commanded attention, there's a growing market for high-grade modern pieces. It's a new frontier for collectors, challenging, exciting, and full of surprises. Enter the 1994 P nickel. It began to gain traction quietly. First among Jefferson nickel enthusiasts, then among general collectors. Grading companies like PCGS and NGC began to see more submissions. Most didn't grade high. But a few, a precious few, came back with high marks and the coveted full steps designation, and that changed everything. As more collectors competed for these rare gems, the price climbed. A coin once worth 5 cents, just 5 little cents, was now being appraised, auctioned, and sold for staggering amounts, depending on its grade. Today, a top-tier, MS67 full steps 1994 P nickel is no longer just a coin. It's a collector's trophy. It tells a story not just of 1994, but of how beauty can be found in the most unexpected places. Of how the mundane can become magnificent. Of how numismatics isn't just about age or metal, it's about condition, rarity, and the human desire to preserve something perfect. And here we are now, after all this talk of design, minting, history, and collector passion. Perhaps you're wondering, okay, but what is it actually worth? Well, let's build the moment. Imagine holding that 1994 P nickel in your hand. It's been graded MS67. It has full steps. It has the sharpness of a freshly minted proof, though it was never meant to be one. It's rare. It's certified. It's a standout among hundreds of millions. That little coin, worth 5 cents by design, today commands an incredible value of $165. That's right, $165 for a nickel, and it's not just because of age, or silver content, or some minting error. It's because of preservation. Because of care. Because someone, somewhere, saw it and thought, this is something special. In the early 1960s, America was a nation on the edge of transformation. The Cold War loomed large. John F. Kennedy was in the White House, and a sense of both fear and excitement permeated the air. The space race was intensifying, and cultural shifts were slowly reshaping the country. Amidst all this, in the quiet hum of the U.S. Mint, something far less noticeable but still fascinating was being produced: the 1962 Jefferson nickel. At first glance, a 1962 5-cent coin might seem like just another piece of pocket change, an ordinary coin used to buy gum, pay a phone booth, or get your morning newspaper. But dig a little deeper, and you'll uncover a story rich in American history, numismatic detail, and even a surprising twist of value that makes this humble nickel worth far more than its face value today. The story of the 1962 nickel doesn't start in 1962. It begins much earlier, in the depths of the Great Depression. In 1938, the U.S. Mint decided it was time for a new design to replace the Buffalo nickel, a coin that had been in circulation since 1913. Though beloved by many for its rugged, distinctly American design, the Buffalo nickel had become notoriously difficult to strike clearly, especially the date and the buffalo's horn. Mint officials wanted something more practical, and so, they turned to artists for a new vision. Fast forward 24 years to 1962, and Schlag's design was still in use, virtually unchanged. That year, the United States Mint produced hundreds of millions of nickels across 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But not all nickels are created equal, and not all of them carry the same story. Now, while the design of the 1962 nickel remained consistent with earlier years, what makes this particular year interesting is what was happening behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint. In the early 1960s, coin shortages were becoming a concern. The booming post-war economy had led to increased demand for coinage, and hoarding by the public, especially of silver coins, was beginning to affect circulation. Now, imagine you're a collector or simply someone lucky enough to come across a 1962 nickel with those sharp full steps, preserved in near-perfect condition. What was once just 5 cents can suddenly be worth hundreds of dollars. Indeed, high-grade examples of the 1962 D. Jefferson nickel with full steps have commanded strong prices at auction. PCGS, the professional coin grading service, has graded numerous examples, but only a fraction have earned the coveted full steps designation. And even fewer exist in grades of MS66 or higher. It's one thing to find a mint state coin, it's another entirely to find one with full strike quality and immaculate surfaces. That rarity is where the value starts to climb. Collectors value not just rarity, but condition, eye appeal, and historical interest. The 1962 nickel hits all 3 in the right circumstances. It's from a transitional era, still bearing the classic pre-war design. It's part of a coin series with growing collector interest. And in pristine condition, it reveals a beauty that's easy to overlook in everyday change. Now, let's consider how a nickel like this ends up being worth $167. It's not magic, it's numismatics. A 1962 D. Jefferson nickel, graded MS66 with full steps, once sold for that very price. Why? Because among millions struck, only a tiny number exist in that elite category. There's also an emotional aspect. For many collectors, coins like the 1962 nickel spark nostalgia. They remind people of childhood, of grandparents' coin jars, of simpler times. That connection, combined with rarity and condition, adds to the appeal and the price. It's worth noting that not all 1962 nickels are valuable. Most still trade for face value, or maybe a few cents more if they're in decent condition. But when all the right factors align, mint mark, condition, strike quality, and preservation, you get something truly special. So, the next time you're sorting through change, take a second look at any nickels from 1962. Look closely at Monticello. And what a story that coin would have. From the production lines of the Denver Mint, across decades of American life, untouched by time, finally landing in a collector's album, or maybe, just maybe, in your hand today, the journey of a coin is a quiet one. It doesn't make headlines or stir controversy. But it does speak, in its own subtle way, to the passage of time, to the value of the everyday, and to the strange and wonderful ways that ordinary things can become extraordinary. The 1962 Jefferson nickel is a perfect example. It's not flashy. It doesn't glitter with silver or gold. But under the right conditions, with the right care, it carries a story and a value that far surpasses its modest beginnings, and there you have it. That plain-looking 5-cent coin from 1962? It could be worth $167 today, depending on its mint mark, condition, and strike. So before you toss your change into a jar or spend it without a thought, take a closer look. You might just have a hidden treasure in your pocket. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into coin history, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you won't miss out on more rare coin stories just like this one. Until next time, keep checking your change. You never know what treasure you might find.